All right, so now we're just gonna put the bow in the press here. Bunch of good presses by Last Chance Archery. This one's obviously the electric one where I have hands free. The pack and go press is good. It has a hand crank that you can hand crank and press your bow at home. This electric one allows us to easily use our feet and press it. Let's start by taking these strings off. And if you've never installed strings before, highly recommend just doing one string at a time. So do one cable set at a time without taking the whole bow apart, or you'll forget kind of where you go. I used to, when I first started doing all this, would video, especially unique bow models, since there's a ton of different ones, I'd video exactly how it all went, so I knew exactly how to put the strings back on once I replaced them. Just take your time, you're not in a rush. But for this bow build, since I've done a bunch of Mathews in my life, that I know exactly kind of how to install them. So what I'm doing first is just removing these cables. And with the newer Mathews, you don't have to take this cable slide out. You can just work the cable through there, just like so. And if you plan on saving these strings as a backup set, try not to let them dangle so they don't lose their twist, all that stuff. Same thing for this other cable, just gonna work it out. Voila. I'm a little OCD when it comes to restringing bows. I don't like a big mess everywhere. So I go ahead and just kind of separate my strings so I know which process to go onto next. So we got our main string here. And for the phase 4, obviously you're gonna have 2 cables and 2 yokes. Pretty simple. I'll remove this bottom cam first, just because once I install that and install the cable, it'll be the first one that slides into that cable slide. All right, so now I'm just gonna take the screw off that holds the axle. And just a little T-handle wrench helps just to get that axle out. And what I do is just keep my parts to the side here, doing one cam at a time, and voila, you just took the cam off. And I'm gonna take this cable off and hold it up so it doesn't lose any of its twist here. And then we will go into replacing the cable and the yoke. Got the good cable off, twist it back up, put it with the main string. Here comes the yoke. Yoke's off. Now I'm gonna redo and put the new one on. I like to go ahead and get this yoke splitter on there and then lay it in the cam track here. And once I get it, I'll probably pull it snug just to make sure that we're even down here, because that's a good way just to make sure that stays nice in the middle. You don't want one side way up on the other. And then I'm just gonna replace it right back into the track in between both top hats. Axle goes back in. And then you get the axle started. Sometimes it gets a little tight, so just give it light taps with the Allen wrench. And then we're gonna screw this back in. And you gotta make sure you line this up pretty straight on the Mathews axles. If it's not going, don't force it. You'll strip it. You'll mess up the threads real easily. Obviously this one's going in easy, so I know I'm on the threads, but if it has any force, just back it out, retry, take your time on it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and install a cable here. And so with all the Mathews here, you're gonna get this loop end, and then you got your served end that goes around the cam. This looped end here is gonna come up through that yoke. See how I'm going up through? And then I'm gonna put that other end of the cable through it, and then I'm just gonna pull it through. And then there, you got that tongue going around that cable. Work that new cable into that back slot. And then I'm gonna set it to the side for now. Not letting it untwist. Okay, that side's done. Then we'll come to the other side and do the same thing. Unscrew that axle screw. Axle's out. And guys, this is the same process I would use on any of the Mathews bows dating back to probably Halon era, because they all kind of use the same similar system, maybe a different cable glide or something like that, but pretty much the exact same system here. Got my yokes. And again, I go ahead and just put them in the yoke splitter just because I like to get it already in there. And get it straight. Lays right back into the track on the cam. Good there, and then just right back in. Obviously the main strings, you can come over here and latch on here. If you're unsure, that's why I always say take a video of every little detail so you know exactly how it goes. Or you can just remember that the mods on Mathews are always on the back side of the press. Give that axle a nice little tap. Line the screw up. Voila. And same thing, tongue's gonna go up underneath, cable runs through the middle, and just pulling it through, cable into the slide. All right, now, I'm just gonna go ahead and put them on the cam. Good there, and you can see my yokes have come off the tracks here. No big deal, it's just for me pulling some tension on it and it's not being set yet. You can just easily lay them right back down in the tracks until you get your string on it, until you get some tension on it. Lastly is the main string, and most string manufacturers will put a little piece of serving in between the string there, just kind of tell you what side the peep should go on and split the middle of the string for you. And then lay that on. Tight fit. And guys, so like I have tension on this and this string's obviously not gonna make it. It's fine. I can just press it a little more. Falls in the track there. It's also a good time to double check, triple check, quadruple check. Everything's in the track. You wanna make sure your cable's on everything. There's nothing slightly hanging off, because when I put tension on this, everything's just gonna stretch and don't want something to slip off. So everything looks good. I'm gonna slowly back it out. And voila. That bow is restrung. Now before I do anything else, I'm gonna check. You'll always hear me talk about make sure your bow's in spec. You can do this on the desk. I'd normally just leave it in the press so I don't have to move it. Get your tape measure out. Axle to axle, should be 33. Let me swap that so you can get it on camera. Money. If I was a little short, or a little long I should say, I just put some twists in the cables just to make that axle to axle tighter. And then brace height should be 6.5 from the middle of the string to the most inward part of the grip, 6.5 there. We're good on brace height, we're good on axle to axle.